There's a people talk a lot about various things in any community, and they have their, I'll put it this way, just plainly, they have their gripes. Everybody has gripes. It just seems to be part of living. But on the other hand, it's also fun to be part of a community that is growing, and that community is becoming, call it a major player when it comes to attracting new housing, new jobs, and so now it's time for people to sit back and say, how would we like this place to look like? How would we like to live another decade from now or 15 years from now? And we're joined in the studio this morning by the city manager from Twin Falls, Travis Rothweiler, coming up on 7 minutes after 9 o'clock, and we'll call it 72. First of all, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate coming back.
Couple of different meetings going on where you're seeking public input for the city strategic plan.
Yeah, so the first is on the strategic plan, and that's going to occur tonight and tomorrow night, both at 7 to 8:30. Tonight we're going to be at Twin Falls High School. Tomorrow night we're going to be at Canyon Ridge High School. And then in addition to tomorrow night's meeting, we're also going to add public input to the city's public master transportation planning process that's also going on. It is embodied into the strategic plan, but we're going to create a special opportunity for people to talk about all things related to transportation on the Wednesday meeting as well.
Now, do people have to sign up in advance to give a presentation or their thoughts?
Absolutely not. And it's going to be
In other words, you don't expect to be inundated with hundreds looking to
I hope
offer input.
I hope so, but we have it set up so that we're going to have individuals being working in small groups, and it's going to be a very informal, facilitated workshop style of a meeting, so that we can capture the absolute most input that we can, in being respectful of individuals' time that they're going to spend with us during those evenings.
Now, we have a lot of people who are uncomfortable with growth, but it's going to happen. So the idea is, how do we best take advantage of that?
Yeah, so I had a mentor that once told me that there's two ways to deal with growth. The first is to get the public works crew out, build a giant moat and a wall around your city, and hope that no one breaks through. The second is to plan for it. And so we're going to take that second opportunity, and we're going to plan for the growth. We think that through proper planning, we want to preserve Twin Falls' unique identity. It's the things that make Twin Falls great. It is the things that have helped us be successful in our economic development and recruitment efforts. So you never want to minimize those strengths, but we also want to make sure that the community is continuing to evolve to a point that meets the citizens' expectations, and it continues to attract that next generation of workforce into our community to keep our economy moving forward.
I've been waiting this morning for somebody to call me and say that they read my weekly newspaper column
I
and that I'm a
did.
kook. But baseball's not really that far fetched, is it?
So, you actually almost brought a tear to my eye, Bill. I've been saying that. So I grew up in Montana, and I grew up watching Pioneer League baseball, which is part of what you saw in Helena. And
Hmm.
so, I've always said that if we could bring in a minor league baseball team, resurrect the Cowboys, that you do create that family environment, but it also, you create a draw. You create a place for individuals to go and experience not only the great game of baseball, but to experience one another, to help build community, to help build commerce if you place it in the right strategic location as part of your community. A lot of baseball parks today are being built in downtown corridors,
Hmm.
which then individuals come and then they stay. And there's a lot of indirect benefit that occurs from all those individuals. So I read that and I thought, absolutely, that's a beautiful idea. I think it's a great idea.
We would have. In fact, I would think that if you looked, there's some areas off of South Washington and some other streets in that corner of the city where there really is, we have a public golf course in that part of
Hmm.
town, but there probably is more than enough space in some of these areas where someone could build. And my suggestion wasn't that we dump a lot of taxpayer money in there. There are other ways to encourage this, facilitate it, that government can go about doing it without saying, all right, we're going to borrow 33, 35, $40 million to do this. There are other ways to go about doing it, and there are people, we don't think about it, that have money in this community who might be willing to participate. I was at Addison Collision yesterday, and there was a Bentley in the parking lot. So somebody here has some money, and,
There is
and
some.
we could find some people who have an interest in this.
I think that you're absolutely right. We have gone so far as having conversations with minor league teams through their major league affiliates. What we've been told is that for Twin Falls to get a team, there has to be another community that would also be looking at expanding, or we would have to take an existing group. We were primarily talking to the teams that are associated with the Pioneer League, which is kind of sprinkled throughout parts of Idaho, parts of Montana, goes into Utah. I believe it also goes into Colorado now.
Right. In fact, the Brewers moving from Helena will be setting up shop in Colorado in a
Right.
couple of seasons.
So you look at those opportunities for them to be able to attract a baseball team. So if we were able to get one, then the next process is how do you build a baseball field? And it does become a bit of a chicken and the egg because you have to be able to show this is what that facility looks like, or be able to have the resources committed that once a team signs on that line to be able to move that forward. It's certainly one of the dreams that I have is because I just absolutely love the game of baseball, and I'd love to be able to take my little boys and have a soda and a cold hot dog and sit along the first base line and cheer on. Who knows? Maybe it's even the Cowboys one day.
And we also I was waiting for that call. Someone telling me I was crazy to mention some sort of municipal internet. Now,
Hmm.
Dothan, Alabama, I think lost its shirt on a project like this. About 30 some $1 million they spent, and it didn't work out, or it, not to the way they intended it. But I saw a piece a few months ago in the Washington Examiner as a follow up to that, and I unfortunately I don't I sent it off, in fact, to Brad Little's office because he's been talking a lot about internet and improving internet in Idaho statewide. But when we built the railroads, the government didn't come and say we'll soak the taxpayers to build the railroads. They found ways to say, all right, we're going to find somebody out here who knows how to build railroads, get a bid from them, give them some right of way. And so there can be ways we can improve a lot of these other services by simply being creative like that without necessarily digging into people's wallets and saying we need more money for this.
Yeah, and I think that it gets the state of Utah had what's called Project Utopia, and Project Utopia was a broadband process in which many of the local government across the state invested collectively to create a broadband network across the entire state. And I'm not entirely certain what came out of it. I know that there was a lot of individuals connected to the telecom industry who said that it was you know, uh, uh, public entities, private competing against the private sector. Um, and that's a balance. But I also, in your piece, I do agree that if I look at my through the eyes of my 21-year-old nephew, he will believe that having access to information is no different than having access to clean water, and that he should have an opportunity to be able to access information as he needs it, just as he can drink clean water or the ability to flush a toilet. The question is who provides for it, and is that truly a government responsibility to be able to provide that, or should we be partnering with individuals to make it so that they can, um, advance their products and their services to a wider swath that they currently aren't? And I think that in Twin Falls, we have a pretty decent relationship with PMT, with Cable One. Although I understand Cable One went down
Briefly.
yesterday, so that may not they may not have a few friends. I understand what it's like to have a disruption of service, but so I think it's our role. I think you're absolutely right. It's not necessarily that the city needs to be the one providing that service, but we really need to be facilitating those partnerships to be able to offer those. And if you look at our strategic plan that we created through 2012 and 13 that we're revising right now, the entire plan success is based upon the partnerships that we're able to create with not only the other local government entities that are doing business in Twin Falls County and in the region, but also with our private and our nonprofit partners as well. And if you look at First Federal Park through First Federal's contributions, you look at the trail with MavTech, you look at lots of the different projects that we've put together and put forth. None of them would have been successful if the government, the city of Twin Falls, was trying to do it by itself. In fact, most of these projects were built through outside sources and through outside contributions, and we were just fortunate enough to be a partner in that effort.
I wanted to mention our guest is City Manager Travis Rothweiler. We're talking about the City of Twin Falls strategic plan, and the city is seeking public input. In fact, if you've got an idea or thought you'd like to share with us while we're on the air this morning, feel free to give us a call at 736-0300. Perhaps you can't make one of the meetings in the next couple of nights, but you've got an idea that's been in your head for a long time, and you just have to share it with someone. It's 9:16 on News Radio 1310 KLIX and News Radio 1310.com. We're at 71, and Bill Colley with you as well on the air this morning. This downtown renovation that we've seen too is really all part of this grand strategy.
It is. It's underway. We had a report last night. We're fully expecting that first block to be substantially complete this Saturday. We're encouraging all individuals to continue to go downtown. You know, the merchants have been really patient. They've been very, very tolerant. We've provided incredible disruption to their normal routine in their lives, and we'll continue to ask for their grace as we continue to move forward. But at the end, this project we believe is going to once again have reinvestment in the heart of our community. There's downtowns are the unique places of a community, and I think it is our opportunity to recapitalize and reinvest in that heart, and that's part of this overall process.
We have a caller with us, and caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX. Go ahead.
Good morning, Travis. Good morning, Bill.
Good
Yeah, I was
morning.
just going to ask you, what's your guys' plan? I know Twin Falls City is growing, and that's inevitable. It's kind of a good thing that's happening in this economy. However, if you talk to anybody around the valley, the biggest complaint you hear is the traffic in Twin Falls. It's kind of limited in and out. What are you guys doing for future planning to try to control the traffic and make it flow a lot easier?
So that's a great question. Part of our process right now is we're going through a master transportation plan where we're taking a look at every single part of our transportation infrastructure and trying to find ways that we can successfully move the traffic through different parts of our community. We're talking about road expansions in key and critical areas. We're talking about creating uh, truck routes so that they're specific to the tractor trailers that are coming through our community. Agriculture is a vital part of our community, and we need to make sure that those farm to market roads and then those roads to the value added processors are open and they're free. We need to continue to find ways to open up additional lanes of traffic that currently aren't complete. And then I think that we also, for those who are uh, looking at other alternative forms of transportation, whether it be bicycle, pedestrian, we need to also make sure that they have safe accommodations. One of the things that was discussed in Garvey 2 is a second bridge crossing. And that second bridge crossing, I don't know if that will ever come and materialize. If you ask some, they certainly say that it's needed. If you ask others, they'll certainly say that it's not. Um, I think that from our perspective, we need to be planning as though the bridge isn't going to be built because that's about a $150 million investment, and I don't know where the resources are going to come from.
We'll pause on that and get back to some of these topics in just a couple of minutes. City Manager Travis Rothweiler joining us in studio this morning from Twin Falls. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and News Radio 1310.com. Joining us in the studio is Twin Falls City Manager Travis Rothweiler. It is 9:23. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and News Radio 1310.com. And we wanted to point out if you'd like to have a question or comment, because some people can't attend the next couple of nights the public hearings where you're being asked for your input about the upcoming strategic plan for the city. You have an opportunity to do that right now, and maybe offer some ideas as well. And the man, obviously, who can answer your questions is here on all of the details on this. Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Well, I'll certainly
you're
give it
pretty well
a.
prepared.
I'll give it a shot.
We've been talking off air about the interesting growth in Twin Falls in that you really have two downtowns now. You have the traditional one, and then you've got that area around Pole Line Road
That's
on
right.
the north side, and that's growing gangbusters.
It is.
And really, there's some spots over on the east side too that we're seeing a lot of that. And so you got to almost focus on the fact you don't want to stifle growth anywhere, but you've got to realize the resources have to be divided up somewhat.
Absolutely, and I think it's what's important for us is, I had a great mentor when I was in the Montana legislature. He always said that government does not create wealth. It's the private sector that creates wealth. And our opportunity as government is to make sure that we are creating the basic infrastructure needs so that the private sector can be successful. And when you take a look at the downtown project, it was in need of significant repair of its infrastructure. The sidewalks were trip hazards. The roads were were degrading. The and you started to look at that part of our community as maybe something that was a bit forgotten. And now with the reinvestment as this continues to move forward, it really almost takes on that broken windows theory that Rudy Giuliani talked about
Hmm.
in his book, and that's where you take and those areas and you transform them through public investment in the areas that are appropriate for public dollars, and then you watch the private sector come back. And if you look at that first block that we're working on right now, it really is a showcase of some phenomenal businesses that are in that downtown core. And we're hoping through this investment, we're going to be able to see that throughout the entire 5 block process.
And near downtown, near the old downtown, obviously you've got an Albertsons grocery store, and you don't have to go far up the street and find two more grocery stores going up Addison. But there's going to be, I would assume, because you've got one grocery on the south side as you head out toward the airport,
Mhm.
but there's going to be demands that you're probably going to have even something additional in that immediate downtown core.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that what you're going to start seeing is, and as we were talking about, almost communities with communities that are being created. And I think that the downtown community is, as we're having conversations with individuals about creating downtown housing, as we're talking about creating additional restaurants and places for commerce, retail activity, we're starting to see the possibilities of a smaller community that is going to be created in that downtown area. But it certainly can't be a food desert. If there's not the opportunities to wholly live within that area, then it's going to lessen those opportunities. And so, certainly being mindful that our zoning processes are appropriate to allow for neighborhoods to be created that can almost be fully contained neighborhoods.
And but even seeing an ethnic grocery pop up, I mean, you can still pick up groceries there. In fact, I have not yet been in there, and I feel I'm sure changing myself. But we're going to see more and more of these options. This is the one thing about growth I think people sometimes overlook is you're going to have more options when you dine out. You're going to have more options when you shop. Uh, I know that there's some negatives with growth, obviously, but as you said, you can't really build a moat around the city.
Right. And I think that we have to be very, very mindful about the growth. I know that. So if I talk to my mother-in-law, who has been born and raised in the Magic Valley, and the furthest she's lived from Twin Falls is where she was born and raised in Murtaugh. And if I when I talk to her, her primary thing would be make sure that you don't steal Twin Falls' identity. Make sure the place that she remembers, the place that she grew up was is still vibrant. And when I talk to my wife, she will tell you that she can recall a time in which there were incredible robust shopping opportunities in the downtown core. So if we can return those and not sacrifice the other opportunities that are occurring out on Pole Line, out on Blue Lakes, out on Washington, then I think that we're adding benefit to the community.
We have a caller with us. We're at 928. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air with Travis Rothweiler.
Good morning, Travis. I appreciate your effort. A question that I have is you mentioned getting apartments and living accommodations down there in the center of the city. Is that veering anywhere near Agenda 21, Agenda 23? I'll listen to your answer.
Okay, so I'm not familiar with Agenda 21 or Agenda 23.
Those are
So,
old United Nations ideas about, what do they call it? Sustainability. And there's some fear from people that it's about an idea about herding us all into a city core.
no, what we're trying to do is create opportunities and different types of housing for people who want something different. When we take a look at the different housings that are available in Twin Falls, we have multifamily, and
Hmm.
in fact, if you talk to builders and developers, it's an area of workforce housing that we're a bit short of. Multifamily is an incredible scarce resource within our community. If you talk to individuals who are moving into Twin Falls, finding a place to rent is ridiculous and very, very tough. And then there are other individuals who don't want a yard. That's kind of foreign to me. I like my yard. I like mowing my grass. I like going in my backyard. Some people just don't want a yard. They want to be closer to a downtown core, and that's where they want to choose to live. So
Well,
we're trying.
hold
Yep.
the thought,
Okay.
and you can stick around a few more minutes.
Yep.
We're at 9:30, and Travis Rothweiler is joining us from Twin Falls, city of Twin Falls. He's the city manager, and we're at 73 right now. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com. Our guest is Twin Falls City Manager Travis Rothweiler. We're talking about the city's strategic plan, and the city the next couple of nights is seeking some input from the public, and of course we wanted to offer you on air as well, some of you who may not be able to make it to one of the meetings, an opportunity as well to chime in this morning. It's 9:34, and we're at 71. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com. We have a telephone caller looking to join us right now, and caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Good morning, Bill. This is Pat.
Sure.
This is probably a little bit related to it, but they need to get a response team set up when the lights quit working to get immediately there and do some hand control of this traffic. You can't have 7 to 10 lanes of traffic doing stop and go without multiple accidents. I've seen many, many accidents taking place that should never happen. And if they'd had officers there, it'd save a lot of community money and injuries by having somebody being responsive for that.
Yeah, I think the caller makes a really good point. And I think what the caller's talking about is probably the episodes that occurred on the 4th of July. So on the 4th of July, on that evening, for those who might have been out of town, there was, I don't want to call it a brownout, but there was certainly a power blip that took power out of most of Twin Falls. I think 14,000 customers right inside the core of the city of Twin Falls were without power. And then when the power did come back on, our traffic signals didn't respond the way that we had hoped. And what happened was that some of them went into a flash mode, some of them completely just they didn't operate the way we looked at. One of the things that we found is that recently we had gone through an upgrade of our traffic systems in partnership with ITD and the traffic signals. And there was a glitch in the programming and the software that when there was uh, the firmware needed to be updated, and so that when there was a blip, that they could recycle as opposed to going into the flashing modes. The caller talked about having officers at the corners, but unfortunately, we have a lot more intersections with traffic signals than we have officers on our staff.
Yeah.
And uh, so while I know that our teams were out there, they utilized flares. We had many, many officers throughout the entire community, um, and working at different areas. But it's also one of those things that if you take a look at the fireworks display that is in Twin Falls, and we've talked off air, where Twin Falls will grow to nearly double its population when you have special events. Many, many people came into the community to watch the fireworks. The traffic was elevated, the traffic signals went out, so it was the perfect storm for us. Members of our team have since worked with ITD. We've got the system we believe fixed. We've also got a couple of new pieces of equipment that allow us to much more readily respond, as our information services lady was sharing with me, so that when these come up, we'll be able to better respond to those situations.
I did notice, and this was fascinating, that at Pole Line Road in Fillmore, people were literally, and because you've got several lanes and you've got left turn lanes, people were doing it like a four-way stop on their own that following morning. And I was, so sometimes order will be created just out of human nature anyway in that situation.
Yeah, and I think that just kind of reflects that, many of us are used to being patient, stopping, waiting. There were a few accidents that did occur as a result of maybe some miscommunication on who thought it was their turn at what moment, or maybe they just simply weren't paying attention to the different lights and just went through and had an accident that way.
We've got about a minute and a half left in this segment, maybe 2 minutes. The one thing that I wanted to point out to people is that these meetings the next couple of nights are open to the public, and it's a matter of just people showing up. And we hear this all the time. After the fact, people say, "Well, why did this happen?" Well, if they'd come, they could have that input. They can get some of the detail, and you try and encourage this.
Yeah, it's absolutely important. And so the strategic plan is not a document that we place onto the shelf. It actually is everything that we use to guide our policy making decisions. It is the cornerstone of our budget that we're actually going forward in that process with right now. We describe the things that we're going to spend public resources on, the projects that we're going to expend public resources on, and that entire planning process is built through community input. And this is the opportunity for the community to engage in those processes. We hope that individuals will come up. We certainly want to hear from individuals. We're trying to do it at times that are much more. We recognize there's never a perfect time, but we're trying to create times in which it doesn't conflict with what I would say routine work schedules, and people can go home, they can have their meals with their families, and then if they are so inclined, they can venture out. And we'd also welcome that if people want to submit emails, if they want to do those type of things, they can send those to the city. They can send them care of me. You can find us on our website. You can call into our office. We'll take down some notes. We just certainly want to provide access and opportunity to everybody.
7 o'clock tonight, Twin Falls High School.
Yep,
7 o'clock tomorrow night, Canyon Ridge High School.
that's correct.
So people have all the details. Want to thank you for coming by today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh yeah, good luck with this.
Thanks.
I hope I can live a very long time in this life so I can see all the wonderful changes on the way. I wanted to point out we have a short break coming up. Bill Colley with you on Top Story. Travis Rothweiler has been our guest. He's the Twin Falls City Manager. We're at 9:40, and right now it's 74.